Welcome back for another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. Today's episode is the Connector's Advantage, How Networked Leadership Opens Doors. Before anybody tunes out because they do not own a business or aren't an entrepreneur, I want to state that this episode really does apply to everyone. I think back to when I was an educator and I was first looking at leaving the world of education. I realized that though I felt I was ingrained in the community by working for a county public school system and then a city public school system, I realized I truly had no relationships outside of the school system itself. That did not come in handy when I was looking for opportunities and really needed connections in the community. We all have needs all the time, whatever the need may be. Say, as a classroom teacher, the need of, can I find folks in the community to help support with the things that I need purchased for my classroom so I'm not spending my own money on it? Relationships outside would have been very helpful to me at that time. It doesn't matter where you are and what you're doing, we need relationships to help us get there. And so in today's episode, we're going to focus on that. Yes, we're going to look at it through the lens of an entrepreneur, but we're going to come back to the importance of this across the board. So I've actually asked today's podcast producer, Matthew Baer. I say today's like you only produce it today. Our podcast producer, Matthew Baer, to join me for today to talk a little bit about the journey with networking, but from a different perspective than what I approached it with Cynthia Schneider, CEO of the Top of Virginia Regional Chamber before. So what you don't know yet is that Matthew was not involved in networking prior to meeting me. And so we're going to talk about the difference in his business prior to networking and after, as well as his recent endeavor and how his relationships in the community has really helped him with this. So thank you for joining me today, Matthew.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
No, I can tell. I sense some sarcasm. You're not excited to be on the podcast?
I do not like being on this side of the podcast.
Why are you here then?
For you. Because you don't like being on this side of the podcast by yourself.
This is true. I don't like doing it alone. And the moment that I realize that no one's going to be able to join me for an episode, I do get a little stressed out. So thank you. I know it creates more work for you.
And what happens when you get stressed out?
Everybody's happy when I'm stressed out. Everybody's fine.
No.
Nobody's impacted by my stress levels.
No. Your stress is like this weird force field that comes out from you and causes stress in those around you.
I think I bring joy to so many. I don't know what you're talking about.
You do bring joy to many.
In all seriousness, thank you. It's very helpful to have someone where there is a distinct difference in the business and what was going on for you prior to networking and then after. So those that didn't hear the episode before kind of don't know your connection to business, the business world in general. Can you stay big picture for me, but explain a little bit your journey to business and what life was like prior to networking?
Yeah, so when I first met you, I was running a lawn care and landscaping business. And
thank you for reminding me, by the way, because my memory is terrible.
Oh, I'm aware.
Go ahead.
I'm very aware. It's funny how, never mind. I was going to talk about how you remember certain things, but then other things you conveniently forget.
Yeah, it's true. I forget it.
Yeah.
Yes, lawn care and landscaping business.
Lawn care and landscaping business. You asked me to tell everyone about this, so.
Okay, I will.
Anyway, when I met you, it was still very small. I was past the point of being just by myself, mowing for a handful of people, and I think I had probably 6 or 8 employees. But still, most of our work was just coming from word of mouth. We were doing a few other things, but it wasn't really fruitful. It was mostly just clients telling other people about us. So it was a struggle trying to figure out, how am I going to keep this thing going year round as well? That was another aspect of, especially in the lawn care landscaping industry, In this part of the country that we're in, winter is tough. You basically, snow removal is your only other option, and that's tough around here too because some winters are great, some winters we don't get much at all, and depending on how you're set up, you might be going a few months without much income. So the biggest part for us was we just had to continue to find more and more that we could bring in to extend that and allow me to my keep my employees year round. So when you and I first met, one of the first things you told me I needed to do that I wasn't doing at all was join the chamber. Um, Try to find some networking groups.
Can you pause for a second with the word networking? Because we're ingrained in it now, we obviously know what it is. But if you would have asked me 10 years into my education career, what's networking, I would have had no idea. So what does that even mean to you?
Yeah, something that I didn't, even when you first told me about it, I don't know that I really understood it then.
But
now,
you trusted me?
yeah,
I give good
I
advice.
trusted you. I mean, I'll be honest. I think your outlook of networking has changed since then as well. Because I know when you and I first met, your business you were still building, and so networking for both of us at that time was more about getting our names in front of people and
It was planting seeds. We were in the seed planting time.
planting seeds. But I know for me especially, it was about trying to sell to some degree. I've never been a pushy salesman, but I was trying to get in front of people, hoping that they would be clients. Um, Now I understand networking very differently, and I have a deeper appreciation for it because of that. But we'll get there.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, immediately after you suggested that, I went out, joined the Chamber of Commerce.
You still didn't tell me what networking means.
Networking. Okay. Networking is just relationship building. That's all it should be. That's not how everyone goes about it, but that's all it really is, and all it really should be.
Well, I feel like it's this. I know this is a really weird analogy, but I picture like this massive spider web, right? And I am constantly in my mind trying to connect a person with a need that has been established. So someone says, "Hey, I need this." And I'm like, "I know someone who does that." Right? So building relationships with people who you know, like, and trust. You don't in the beginning until you get to know them, right? So that as you're listening, it's kind of reactive if you're doing it this way, but as you're listening and identifying someone has a need, oh, I have somebody for that. But when I picture a network, I picture like plotted points and how they're all connected and cross over one another. It's all interwoven.
Yeah, and that's probably why it's called network. So it's where it's different from just making friendships, which my point in this is that's really what it needs. Its main focus needs to be is building those friend relationships. But it's a network because these are when you go to networking events, whether it's a chamber or a specific group that is set up for that, it is about other business minded people, business owners, leaders who are there to build those relationships and also to share what they do, but it's also sharing who they know. And that's really the key. For someone who's new to this, who's just starting into business or just wants to get into networking to get to know more people, I highly recommend it, whether you're an owner or not. If you're just I don't want to say just, but if you're an employee or a manager, if you're able to get out and network, you're building your own worth and value to any business that you work with. In fact, I know many people who, because of the networks that they built, people they got to know, ended up getting bigger, better jobs because they built that relationship. People saw their value and then offered them positions because of that.
Yeah.
So it's not just about being a business owner and trying to get business or trying to get a deal somewhere. It is about building your own worth and value in the sense of, hey, I know the person for this.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a manager and your boss comes to you with a problem and you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't know how to do this, but I know someone who does,
Mm-hmm.
that can be just as valuable, if not more so at times.
Well, you had said to me before about the phrase "knowledge is power." Tell them what you
Yeah,
told me
so
about that.
there's two sayings that you hear often. Knowledge is power, and then the other one is it's not what you know, but who you know. Both are not really correct. You can be the smartest person in the world, but if you don't know people, if you don't have relationships, you're not that knowledge isn't going to get out to anyone anywhere. Um, Likewise, you can have all the friends in the world, but if you don't have at least some knowledge to know how to use that network of friends,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to do you any good either. So
Yeah.
the mixture of the two can be extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so building those networks, getting to know people, whether it's an industry that really affects you directly or not, it doesn't really matter. One thing you really need to keep in mind when you are networking, you can't look at someone's title or industry and discount them because that doesn't matter to me. You don't know who that person might know.
Mm-hmm.
And as I got more into the chamber and other networking events, a lot of people who were never going to be clients of mine ended up sending people my way.
Yeah, I agree.
So when you do build those relationships, you're not just expanding your network by that one. You're expanding your network times whatever that person has on top of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say their entire network just became your network.
Right.
Yeah. So let's go backwards for a minute. So you listened to me. You joined the chamber, and did it have immediate results? What happened?
No, absolutely not. It was a massive waste of money, basically,
Why?
because I didn't put any time or energy into it.
Oh, say that again.
I didn't put any time or energy into it. So I
You
can't.
can't just join a chamber and then expect that everybody starts calling you because now you're a chamber member?
No, and that's I did not understand the point of the Chamber of Commerce when I first joined. My understanding was that I could get cheap insurance through them, which isn't the case. Yes, a lot of chambers do have some sort of deal worked out with insurance companies, but it was not what I thought it was. Someone else, not you, had suggested that to me, and that
Someone else, not you. Yeah, guys, I didn't say that.
and so that was actually the main. Even you had suggested that I get into networking. I think I might have actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I might have been a member of the chamber before I met you, but I wasn't using it.
I'm trying to remember. I feel like you were.
I think I was a member.
But you were trying to tell me that it doesn't work, and
Yeah.
it irritated me because I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't work? What are you doing?
Right.
I
I'm
remember
actually
now.
I'm pretty certain I was a member, but I was getting nothing out of it, and I think
When did it switch for you?
about a year. Well, I was coming up on the end of my first year, and you actually made the recommendation of talking with the membership director and expressing my frustrations and concerns. So I called up the membership director and basically said, look, give me a reason to stick around because I wasted my money over this last year. What good is it for me to stay a member of the chamber?
Can you pause right there? I appreciate the fact that you said, like, give me a reason to stay, because you gave them the opportunity to convince you to stay rather than just making a decision. This is why, like, the ambassador program is so important for member retention and reaching out to people, because you give them the opportunity to ask for the help, right?
Yeah, I mean, from my side of it, I didn't really want to drop my chamber membership because there was something there that told me it could be helpful. I felt like it's what you're supposed to do as a business person.
And it's also not expensive.
Yeah, I mean, well, so as a small business owner at the time, I was struggling. I mean, I think we were really at a place where I mean, 6 or 8 employees. A lot of them were not necessarily full time based off of how small I was
Mm-hmm.
then, but I think it was like $350. That was a lot of money for me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that was something that I had to sit and take seriously before making that investment because I mean, fuel expenses and
Yeah.
everything else. I was in a place where every dollar made a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So
But I will say, and we've talked before about our perspective of money and how it's changed. But when you start to think of it as, okay, but what does this dollar get me access to, right? This
and
compounding networking opportunity.
well, and at that time, that's what I really didn't understand. And
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, it was still a while after having this conversation with the membership director till I did understand. He had his solution was he invited me to a couple of their ambassador program, like I don't remember if it was ribbon cutting or I think they were presenting a plaque to someone. And I'd gone to a couple of these, and after a while, I even looked at him and said, "Hey, this is kind of a joke. Like, you've got something that could be great here, but
Mm-hmm.
um, we're really not getting anything out of it. We show up, we clap, and then we leave." So I won't go into all the details, but fast forward 6 months or so later, I ended up becoming the chair of the ambassador group. We completely redid the program, and it went from we had about I think there were 10 people in total that attended the one ambassador meeting that I was at, and most of them were virtual. They weren't even coming in. To we had to put a cap of 30 because we had so many people interested in our new ambassador program, which centered around building relationships. It was more about what can members get out of the chamber and how they can get something out of the chamber instead of just before the mindset was just we want to help the chamber, and that's not a bad thing. It's just people get burned out that way, and when they don't understand that the chamber is actually there to help them, not the other way around, it does get twisted. And so as long as you've got the right mindset and you've got a group of people with who are helping to kind of teach you, train you how to
Mm-hmm.
go about it, it makes a huge difference.
Well, it's like the ambassador program is almost like a mini networking group. So it makes me think about, you know, how I love Cornerstone Chapel in Leesburg, and I really, really want to go to that church because I love Pastor Gary, right? And you had said, not living in the area, that you wanted to go to a church where you could actually get to know people, and it's a smaller group. That when you go to Cornerstone Chapel, you walk in, you never see the same people, right? It's 1,000 people walking around, but like at a smaller church, you're seeing the same people all the time. I feel like the ambassador program has been like that because we have, what, I don't know, we're at 10 now, 10, 12. And I'm seeing them on a monthly basis. I'm seeing them at events. We actually, at our ambassador meetings, have a featured speaker each month. And we actually do 10-minute presentations to the other ambassadors to share, what problems does our business solve? What can we do? Sharing our background personally, just
And
connecting.
and that was kind of what we did with our ambassador program as well. We centered it more around the businesses that were involved,
Mm,
and we made it where it was a mini networking group. We weren't trying to compete with some of the other big networking groups, but we wanted to
mm,
make it where it it didn't have the commitment that some of the other networking groups had, but it also allowed you to get to know other local businesses, and you got to a point where, like, for me personally, we capped it at 30. But what that actually meant for me was I had 30 people in that group who knew me. Most of them, I guess, liked me. At least some of them liked me.
survey results.
But they definitely liked me enough that they were referring me because that was when I really noticed a massive uptick in
Mm,
the business that I had coming in. And not only that, but I also had people in that group who knew more about business, that were able
mm,
to give me advice,
yes.
that were able to kind of point me in the right direction, or if I had a question about anything business related,
Mm-hmm.
there were people now that I could go to and say, "Hey, do you know anything about this, or do you
Yeah.
know someone who can help me with this?" now I actually had that
Mm-hmm.
network of, they were all friends, but they were also helping me in connecting with their network to get the answers that I needed.
Yeah, like when I just switched from sole proprietor to LLC, I immediately thought like, okay, I need to meet with an attorney. I want their help with this and make sure that I cover all the legalities of it. And then I went and had lunch with Darkus and I talked about the bank side of it and how I needed to open new accounts, and she recommended I talk to Ryan more about that. And I can talk to my insurance friends about, what additional insurance do I need? Does this change anything there? And the list goes on, right? So I have a need. I know nothing about any of these things. And so I can lean on those relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just about going to these networking events. It's not just about selling. It really comes back to building those relationships, because it gets you the who you know, and it also helps you with the what you know side of things.
Yeah.
You can learn more by asking questions, and by asking questions, that actually helps you to build the relationship. And that was where a bigger shift really happened for me, of figuring out how to market better, how to get in front of other businesses that were like key clients, potential clients for me. And then at the same time, that was a group of 30 people that turned into basically 30 sales reps that I didn't have to pay.
Yeah.
Because
unpaid sales team. Chuck says that in B&I all the time. You have a room, like this is 30 people who are unpaid to be your sales team out in the community.
Well, and that was one of the things that I stressed in that group when I was the chair of it, of we're not just here to help. We're here to help build our businesses. We're not just here to help the chamber. That's an added bonus. But looking at the group and saying, hey, I don't care if you do have 2 other lawn care and landscape professionals that you like. By all means, refer them. Just at least put me there as the third. I don't need to be the top one, but if someone asks you, who should I talk to, give them a list and add me there as your third.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, I prefer that.
I do too.
When I'm referring a business to someone else that I know, whether it's a client or a friend is asking for help in an area, if I'm going to refer someone, it's rare that I just refer one. I usually like to refer at least 2 or 3, because sometimes it's not just about some of it is I've got multiple friends in that space. Other parts are I know if someone recommends one business to me, I still want at least 2 others that I can talk to, so
everything
I can compare in price. And maybe personalities don't mesh for one reason or another, depending on what it is. It's always nice to have at least a couple of options. And so I would try to always at least encourage my group to do that. But again, that's 30 more people who, if they didn't like me, they at least tolerated me enough that they were sending work my way. So that was really helpful. But honestly, the biggest help in all of that was more about having that quote unquote network that I could reach out to when I had a question.
Yeah. Anytime there was a need, you had someone to call. I agree, and obviously it's had the same impact on my business. I feel like it's a lot of work up front.
Absolutely.
And I leaned into it really heavy for at least the first year of my business. I mean, Nexco National, Polka Dot Powerhouse, Women in Winchester, BNI, the chamber, multiple chambers. So when he says, networking groups, we're talking about all sorts of different organizations that provide these opportunities. And by the way, we're not getting paid to sell the chamber or BNI or anything here today.
No. However, what I will say, and the truth of the matter is, I don't care where someone is. The Chamber of Commerce is almost always going to be your greatest business resource in your area.
Okay, so even not as a business owner, I'm not even going to say business resource, I'm going to say just biggest resource, period, in your area.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not talking specifically to business owners. If you're an employee or a manager and you're looking for other solutions for your company or even for yourself, like if you're if you, let's say you're looking for someone you're doing a remodel at your house. Good place to start is who's a member at the chamber.
Yes.
And
that directory.
If you go to the chamber and ask them for a recommendation, usually they won't give you just one.
Yeah.
They'll usually give you a few, but that also, as the chamber, especially their members, the chamber has to be careful about recommending just one because they might have a list of several.
Yeah.
But if you get to know some of the members of the chamber, they can tell you who they have a relationship with, and that can really help you to get to know, like, is this going to be a fly-by-night type business? Are they going to take my money and run, or is this a serious company?
Usually those people aren't in the chamber.
Most of them aren't.
Yeah.
Typically, you're only going to find the serious ones. One of the questions you could ask if you wanted to kind of vet a business is, how long have they been a member of the chamber? If they haven't been there long, no one's really going to know too much about them. But if they've been there for years, that's an established business that's probably well respected.
Yeah, that's so true. So another, I'm not going to call it a myth, just people don't really know this, so I'm going to throw it out there, is we're not telling you yourself to go out and purchase a chamber membership. If you talk to your employer, if you are a chamber member, if your employer is a chamber member, you are a chamber member. And you can go to any of these events and start to connect. Like, I think of our young professionals group. Are you going to tell me that you have to talk to your boss and ask permission?
Definitely,
I don't ask permission for anything.
Definitely talk to your boss, because having been an employer myself, I can tell you that there's a handful of employees that I had that I wouldn't have wanted going to a chamber, and shame on me for that. But at the same time, you're gonna want to. You definitely need to check with your employer first.
Well, the point is, you're distracting me from my point. The point is, the majority of business owners, if you are on the team and have been accepted into the culture of that organization, they would be proud to have you out in the community representing them. But I was thinking of, like, the young professionals group. We have all sorts of folks. They might sit in a sales position. They can be any position in an organization, and they come out and they connect with other young professionals growing in their career. And you might meet someone and hear about an opportunity at their organization. You might end up jumping ship and going to another business that is a better fit for you. You fit better into the culture.
Now you're going to convince all the business owners to not allow their employees to go.
Well, then that is just going to force the business owners to really focus on their culture to make sure people don't want to leave.
Hey, healthy competition, I've always said, is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many benefits to expanding your friend group. That's what networking is. It's expanding your friend group, while also expanding your business worth. Whether you're an owner or not, it's you are growing your own worth. Whether it's for the company you work for, the company that you own, or a potential company in the future. And like I said, but I don't know if I told you here on the podcast or before, like, I've seen several people who got to really ingrained in the different networks in front of other bigger, better businesses who liked what they saw through those networking events and ended up hiring them.
Yeah.
And so it's very beneficial, no matter what position you hold, just to expand that network. Because again, we go back to, it's not just knowledge that's power. It's the relationships. The knowledge with the relationship together is where you really get power.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. I would say I want to kind of fast forward a little bit to what's been happening recently. So you have been taking on a lot of different roles, wearing a lot of different hats for businesses recently. So not in lawn care and landscaping anymore, helping me, with my events, being my producer. You're working for a wealth management company. You've got your own business, Social Drive Media. So you have all of this stuff going on. However, you saw a need. based out of recent events, you saw a need and you decided to do something about it. Can you explain how your network, your past network from a business that, you had years ago at this point, is paying off today?
Yeah. So uh, during and post Hurricane Helene, seeing the response down there. And for those who didn't listen before, my way back background was in the fire service. I was a career firefighter for around 10 years in total. And now, that's just a small part of this, but it kind of plays a factor into this whole new thing. Just seeing the response, seeing the need for helping people down there, and then sitting back and watching my community and the heart that they had to help. Quite a few businesses were putting together drives to send down supplies and help out. Um, it got me thinking because I saw that there were a lot of issues at the same time. It was wonderful to see the heart, but it was also very frustrating watching the problems that kept arising as they were trying to help and just couldn't.
What do you mean by that?
Whether it was people sending supplies down and then getting turned around because they went to an area that couldn't receive it. So for those of you who don't understand, it's really hard when you're dealing with a natural disaster situation. You've got a lot of effort going into the immediate action needs, whether it's search and rescue, shelter. There's immediate, we have to take care of these things right
Life
now.
or death.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard to then also set up the network there on location to receive and distribute goods. So what would happen quite often is you would see people send a tractor and trailer load of supplies to an area that didn't have the means to unload it, didn't have the means to store it, didn't have the means to distribute it. And so they'd get turned around. And a lot of that comes down to poor communication. It's not necessarily anyone's fault. It's just people don't necessarily understand how that emergency management system works. So it's love seeing the heart. I just want to see it done more efficiently.
Well, yeah, and if it's like food goods, like a lot of it'll go to waste. Where will all that stuff end up?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And so seeing all of that got me thinking there has to be a better way to do this. Of course there has to be a better way to do this. This isn't a novel idea. I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm looking at other organizations that do this to kind of model from, but it's not an idea that we have locally. So as I started thinking about this, trying to come up with how can we kind of change this and alleviate it, started reaching out to some business friends of mine that I've known from networking and just posing the question like, hey, what do you think about this? You think it's a good idea? Do you think that Matt's out of his mind? What are your thoughts?
They all thought you were out of your mind, right?
Well, they all do think I'm out of their mind, but they do out of my mind, but they do like the idea. And so after a handful of conversations, I finally decided, okay, let's try and put something together. So took those couple of guys, started reaching out to several more people that I know, and it went from, I think we had a meeting back in October.
No, don't look at me. Remember, I don't have a memory.
October or November, we had a meeting where we all got together just to kind of talk about it. And I had basically determined I was not going to set up this meeting until I had about 15 people that had expressed interest in helping us come up with a nonprofit that could alleviate that specific issue. I hit the 15 mark. I had 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. I had about 10 to 12 people show up to our first meeting to just talk about this idea and try to figure out what can we do to make this happen. Again, everybody loved the idea. Yes, let's go. Let's do it. We pushed forward. fast forward to now, we've got about 26 people involved. And part of the whole reason I wanted that 10 or I guess 15 at least from the beginning was I knew that what I was trying to push forward here was going to take more than just me to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought in people from so many different areas. Not most of them, when I called them up and said, "Hey, would you be interested in this?" said, "Well, Matt, I've never done anything like that before. So what good am I going to be? How do you see me fitting into this?"
Mm-hmm.
And what I told everyone was, it's not really about if you've had experience in this, because I don't expect anybody locally to have experience in this since we don't have anything like this here.
It would already exist.
Right.
Yeah.
What I'm looking for is just more brain power. I need more people who can think about these things, who can come together and help me to navigate this. But also, I want you to think about who you know that might be helpful in this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how it took us from that 10 to 15 to now 26, 27, actually, as of the other day. And we're still growing. So another great example of how networking has helped us. Through networking, we found a place where we were able to meet originally. Now, kind of through networking, it was you that found us the next place. And through your networking, I kind of led to that.
Mm-hmm.
Of where we can meet. But we also then, through networking, were able to find an attorney who's doing all of the legal stuff for the nonprofit now. Who this particular attorney was a former state representative for Pennsylvania. He's been phenomenal, extremely helpful, extremely knowledgeable, and he's doing it for a really beyond reasonable rate. Like, I'm shocked at how little he's charging us for this. Also, through networking, we were able to get in front of a state senator and a congressman who both love the idea and are at least saying they want to help. We'll see what happens, but they're at least saying they want to help.
We'll hold them to it.
We'll keep pressing that one. And there's other there's a handful of other things that are coming through the pipeline, but all of these are coming from connections that I made from way back in the lawn care days that I've just kept up with the network. They're all friends of mine. So out of the 26, 27 that we have right now, at least 20 of them are friends who were
you met through this networking process.
Through networking.
Yeah.
I have a few that I knew from before. I have a few that I've met as just friends after, but probably at least 20 of them were all business networking people that I met. Even now, we're talking with a business out of Chambersburg who is looking to help us in a bigger way. I don't want to say too much because I don't know how that's going to go, but we're looking for a location to store everything. So we're looking for warehouse space, and there's a chance that there's a business right now who's willing to help us with that. So we'll see, but that was also another networking opportunity that led to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like some of the other needs. I mean, you have people who are drivers.
Yeah.
Right? You have people who are veterans, fire service, police, right?
Most of the group consists of either first responder or military background, but that's not all of the group. The group is very diverse in experience and background. My vice president, he actually is a very good friend. I met him through networking. He became my insurance agent, has been my insurance agent from that point on. There was a brief moment where he came to me saying, "Hey, you could actually get this cheaper somewhere else." And I went there, quickly realized, bad idea.
Cheaper isn't always better.
Cheaper, but the service was absolutely terrible, horrible. And so I ended up basically going back to him saying, "Hey, help me get out of this. I want to come back to you. I don't care if it does cost more." And he's been my insurance agent ever since. But now He's also been a very good friend, but now he's also my vice president of this organization. So I met him originally through a networking group up in Chambersburg called Enyang, not
Oh,
your
yeah.
average networking group.
Well, isn't that how you met Randy Wilson too?
Maybe. I can't remember if
Didn't
that's how
you
I met
meet
Randy.
there and then introduce him to me because of the John Maxwell
I
piece?
introduced Randy to you. I know that.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if I met him through Enyang or if I met him somewhere else. But either way, I met Randy through networking. Randy ended up being a client that spent a lot of money with me. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. I
He had
greatly
some
appreciate Randy.
massive projects.
He did. He had a massive project for us. It was a lot of fun. It was very stressful at the same time. That was early on in my business, as far as like from the networking standpoint. He was a very early um, networking client. We'll put it that way. That I'm very thankful that it was him because I think he gave me more grace than what many other clients
Yeah.
would have. But Randy also he's a member of our board for the nonprofit and very good friend that we met through networking.
Yeah.
I mean, I have anymore
many
the
skill
majority
sets.
the majority of my friends, that my very good friends, are from networking. And the thing that's really cool about all of this, again, I knew Sierra before I started networking. Randy he's in a business that's very similar to yours. So if you're looking at networking as just what am I going to get out of it? I really had no reason to really make a connection with Randy because I already knew a coach. I didn't need another coach. But I like Randy. I like Randy a lot, and he ended up being a client. We've been good friends.
Yeah. It goes back to what you said about like don't think that just because somebody isn't an ideal client for you that they're not someone you should know.
Right.
You know what I mean? That has nothing to do with it.
You have no idea what someone else's network could be. And so that's really a big part of networking, is understanding that there is a much bigger picture than just making a sale. And you need to appreciate that. You really need to focus on building a relationship.
Say that again slowly.
Building a relationship. that is the key. And we can't be a pushy salesperson. Yeah. You have to build those relationships.
Oh my gosh, those people stand out. And I mean, I'll be completely honest. Once you know who they are, you avoid them completely. So
Absolutely.
if you go to a networking event and you think you're going to walk out with a sale, you're there for the wrong reason.
But another thing to think about too, because I know you were this way. I know I was this way. When you go to those networking events, don't just stand in the corner and hide.
Oh yeah, it takes a while to get out of that habit for sure. But once you have a couple of relationships, you ask them, who do you know that I need to know?
I can't tell you how many times I reached out to the membership director at the Chamber of Commerce and said, I'm looking to connect with someone from this industry or this specific business. Can you make a connection for me? And whether it was I asked him in person at a networking event for the chamber, or asked him if he could send an introduction email. I'll tell you that those emails that he would send to a person like that about me probably looked very different than if it was just anyone else, because I had a really good relationship with the membership director. So instead of just saying, hey, Jim, this is Matt. Matt has a landscape company and just wanted to make an introduction between the two of you, and I'll let you guys take it from there. It was, hey, Jim, I want you to meet Matt. He's a really good friend of mine. Great guy. Does a lot for the community. He helps out with our ambassador program. You've probably seen him at a couple of these events. You might have even heard him talking. Want to introduce Matt to you. Just really great guy. Figured you two would get along well, and I'll let you all take it from here.
Yeah.
Very, very different type of connection. And again, because I built such a good relationship, course, he was the membership director of the chamber. He had to be careful not to play favoritism, but
Mm-hmm.
him and I were very good friends, so it was hard for him at times. He even admitted to that. And then
Well,
it
I'm not
was,
gonna lie. I walk into Mikey's and I look at the business card things there. I counted the other day. There were like 16 lawn care and landscaping business options just in business cards at Mikey's.
yeah,
So yeah.
that lawn care and landscaping is a very interesting industry. There's so many of them out there. Um, Anybody with a lawnmower can start a lawn care business. But the reality is, you have to stand out somehow. If you take that extra step to build the relationships in the community, you're going to grow a lot faster than if you just try to muscle your way through.
Go it alone, right? Well, yes. And think about my business. It's got collaborative in the name. And I meet coaches all the time. I meet speakers and trainers all the time, and I've chosen to work on the relationships with them and identify those that I want in my circle and that can actually help me to provide better service to my clients. And so I tap into them. So yeah, there's so many different ways that it can help you, and I want to mention again, like this is truly for anyone and everyone. Um, I have people visit chamber events all the time. They just sign up and come, and then like they're not a business owner, they're just someone in the community that heard about the chamber, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like there's no reason not to come.
Ryan Chapin, he's a great example. You and I both met him through networking events.
Yeah.
Um, Ryan, actually, I've worked with him before. He's been on the podcast before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he actually has been really helpful with this nonprofit. He let me come into his business, take a look from the inside, ask questions. How does, from a warehouse logistics management perspective, what do we need to look out for? What do we need to try and do here? What do we need to avoid? What do we
Mm-hmm.
need to focus on? He's been a huge help.
Yeah.
On top of that, he's also now offering that whenever there is a disaster, once we get this nonprofit completely up and running, he's also offering to donate pet food
Oh, how
for
cool.
um,
From Hardy Pet, by the way.
Hardy Pet. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
check them out. They're amazing. And I mean, Ryan has a great team in there, so it was really cool seeing it from that side.
I love being in a warehouse. I'm sorry. I just love it. It's so cool to see how it all works, and everybody has a piece of the puzzle. You know what I mean?
It's like being inside of a very large machine, just watching
Yeah.
all the parts
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
But
Good stuff. Okay, so life before networking was very different as a business owner for you, but now looking at, you saw a need, specifically because of the hurricane. You wanted to find a way to help. You surrounded yourself with people that could come up with solutions together. And now you're putting together a nonprofit to help make a bigger impact, which is huge. So thank you for your work on that. It's very exciting. I'm enjoying watching it grow. It is, I have to say, it's really cool because I get to see Matthew light up when he'll get off a phone call, and it's almost like he's got a little pep in his step. And I'm like, okay, what was it? And he's like, you won't believe who I just talked to, or listen to this connection I just made. So and so just sent me so and so, and they called me, and this is what they're offering to do to help. And I also said to him, it's awesome to see when things just kind of fall into place, and you know that you're like moving in the right direction. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I'm supposed to be doing, because every single thing that we need, we say we need this, and then this person appears that can come in and help with it.
Well, and that's largely because of that network, because of having that group of people coming together to work on this. They're tapping into their networks, and so when I sit here and scratch my head and go, does anybody know anyone in this area, in
Yeah.
this industry?
Yeah.
And they make the connection for me. It's been a lot of fun, because when I first came up with this idea, I honestly thought it was going to fall flat on its face pretty quickly.
Well, you have a lot of ideas all the time.
I do. I have a lot of ideas.
He asks a lot of questions and then comes up with these solutions, and it makes me think of Working Genius. You're on the front end. You ask questions and you're great with the invention piece, and then you have to have someone to help with discernment.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of times the discernment piece is there. What it ends up coming down to is how badly do I want to make it happen? Am I going to put the work into making this happen? And so might seem like a great idea, but at the same time, I also sit there and go, yeah, it's a good idea, but I really don't want to mess with that.
Feasibility.
Right. And so it's more, is it worth doing is really the question. So the discernment is there. It's more the execution part where I don't take it to that step until I know, hey, this is something worth doing, and this one was. But yeah,
so if anybody has any ideas,
if anybody, well, if anyone wants to help or get involved in something like this, it's a disaster relief nonprofit. We're still in the very early phases of it. We are figuring out a lot of the big pieces of it very quickly. I mean, and that's 100% due to the network. I can't take credit for anything other than I'm friends with these people that are bringing it to me. But it's them. They're the ones that are opening this up for me. I'm just kind of the funnel that's bringing it into one place. So that's really kind of what's the most fun in all of this. This is networking to the extreme, because that's the only way any of this happens is through networking. The businesses that we're going to be working with for collection points of goods, it's all through networking that we're meeting these people, and it's just the combined group that are saying, yeah, we like this idea, we want to help. But if anybody else out there that's listening to this wants to get involved, reach out to Sierra or myself. You can send me an email. It's matt@socialdrivemedia.com. I'd love to talk to you. I'm all about building relationships. That's one of my favorite things to do.
He's a very social being. He's the exact opposite of me. I have to try really, really hard to socialize. It comes very naturally, and it's very exhausting.
Yeah. I have fun. I enjoy. Most of what I do for work is behind a desk, sitting at a computer. I hate being stuck behind a desk all day. So when I get the opportunity to network, talk with people, meet with people,
we should do a count of the number of times the word network was used in this episode.
I'd rather not.
It's more than and so and like and all of the other filler words.
So like we were just talking about.
Stop it! Don't do that to me. So painful. I just made the rest of the episode really hard on myself.
Yes, you did. It's like so for those of you who listened to a recent podcast with Caleb Baer.
Little man, he's out there listening.
I'm not sure where he is. He's here somewhere. But Caleb and Sierra have this fun thing where Caleb will often say, I was like. And
he'll say something and then he'll repeat it saying, well, I was like.
And now, because Sierra would point it out to Caleb when he did that, now Caleb does that to you.
Yeah, if I say I was like, even if it's not in that context, if he hears those three words together.
Yes. He's probably out there pointing it out right now as he hears us saying this.
It's okay. Yeah, always looking for room for improvement. That's what we're doing around here. If you could give a piece of advice to someone who has never been a part of networking before, where do you even begin? What's the first step that someone might take? Let's really make this actionable.
Go to your local chamber and just ask them, even if you're not a member, can I attend one of your events? And ask them if they can help you make a connection while you're there. Don't be afraid, whether you're a member or not, don't be afraid to ask the chamber for help. That's what they're there for. And once you're a member, that opens a door where they can help you a lot more. But even if you're not a member, a a lot of times the chamber will let you attend at least a couple of events. And if there's a connection that you want to make there, ask them. They're very likely going to try and help you if they can. That's aside from that, it's just go make a friend.
Okay, and if you're an introvert and being in a group of people that you don't know terrifies you, where do you begin? Oh, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
I was going to say, just try to branch out.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
It's the branching out challenge, after all.
It is the branching out challenge. Okay, well, I can speak to this because I am extremely introverted. And every time I say that around people with whom I network, they go, "No, you're not. What are you talking about?" They don't.
They don't know you. That's for sure.
Yeah, they don't know that I will go home and not want to speak to anyone the rest of the evening because I've had to talk to humans all day. So that's what Matthew gets to deal with.
Usually when she gets home, I'm lucky if I get grunts and groans. That's about it. Growls.
Okay, so back to the topic at hand. If you are introverted and you truly don't even know anyone there, then lean into a chamber representative, whether it's membership director, whoever works for the chamber, and say, who do you think I need to know, and ask for that introduction. And usually after you make one connection, that's where it all begins.
Yeah.
And you guys know that intentionality is like my favorite thing in the world. Oh, someone asked me this week, you use the word intentionality a lot. Like, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Can you explain what you mean by intentionality? And I'm like, let me tell you what I mean by that. Anyway, so I go in on a mission. I do.
I know.
Whatever the number of the night is, if today you need to meet 3 people you don't know. Today you do not talk to anyone you know until you meet someone you don't know, because that becomes the crutch and you just hang out with the friends you already know. Yeah, you can go to the friend you already know, but say, hey, before we stand here and hang out, look around the room. Who do you know?
Can you introduce me to someone new tonight?
And they point out that person. Oh, I know that person already. They're great, but who else do you know? That person, I don't know them. So take me over and introduce me, please.
On that note, we're gonna make this a dual challenge. One for the introvert that's introvert or extrovert, the person who is new to networking, and then we're gonna have another challenge for the person who is a more seasoned, as we
like Mark Kelly,
exactly,
the well-seasoned,
a more well-seasoned individual to the networking group. So for the new person, it's going to be just getting out there, talking with the chamber or someone else there, making that friend and kind of helping. That will help you to get introduced. But for the more well-seasoned, that's quite the face that I'm going to have to make sure gets edited into this podcast. For the more well-seasoned, their challenge is find that newbie, introduce yourself,
help them out, man,
and then go make introductions for them. I know that anytime I've been at a networking event and I meet someone new, I try to at least introduce them to a few people. I usually end up walking them around until they find someone that they are able to stand there and have a conversation with for a while so that I can sneak away and go do something else. Make those introductions for them so that helps. Because by doing that, you're building your network too. Now they're going to go meet a whole bunch of other new people, and you're going to be the one that got them there. It's helping everyone.
So cute. Sabra and I almost fought over it at the last event. It was at Backseat Events Space. And we both at the same time spotted this person standing by himself. And she looked at him, then I looked at him, and we both kept, then we'd look at each other, and we both established a need and decided that we needed to go over and help him to feel connected and make an introduction for him. So I pounced and I went over to help him out. But I was going to say, when I almost exploded a minute ago, is go in with the intention of giving. Okay.
So what I would say.
Yeah, no. So even if you're not well seasoned, it's not like I'm trying to like go in with the intention of I meet this person. Well, what do they need? Okay, I just met you for the first time. What are you here for? Who are you trying to meet? What can I do to help you?
Yeah.
Let that be the intention, not going in looking for something for yourself. I never walk into a networking event looking for something for myself.
But you are more well seasoned there. So that's the whole idea of what I was saying. Go in there, find the newbie, talk to them, and then make introductions for them.
Yeah.
So it is, yeah,
It is
finding
different.
what they need, but the whole point of that for the well seasoned, or maybe not as well seasoned, but not the newbie, you're there to help everyone else out because it builds your network too.
Yeah. This is great. Great advice. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. I'm so glad that I offered you the suggestion of networking because it sounds like it did impact your business at that time, which is great. And now this new venture is really falling into place for you because of the connections you have. So, congratulations. I'm excited for you.
I'm excited too. Thank you. And we'll see what happens. It's a lot of fun so far, though. And I'm getting to meet some new people too. So you might not like that, but I do. I think it's fun. I think networking is a lot of fun.
I love people. I do. I just think, well, one-on-one is always easier for me when I look around a massive room full of people. Yes, it makes my chest tight. I like one-on-one. So the one-to-one portion, once you meet people, the follow-up and sitting down one-on-one to actually get to know them, that piece is comfortable for me. But it's the looking around the room and looking for the open body language of who looks like they're open to a conversation with a stranger versus those that are closed off and maybe don't look as approachable, right? That's the part that stresses me out.
Well, here, to the people who show up to a networking event and have closed body language and don't want to talk to someone new, what are you doing? Why are you even there?
Well, people don't think about their body language. They might have closed body language and they're not thinking about it. So open it. Make a V. Make a V. Be open.
Or
show that people can join your little circle.
Or you can be like me and just be like, oh wait, that person's acting like they don't want to talk to anyone.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
gonna go fix that.
Man, what are we gonna do with you? All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Have fun editing this.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for sticking through to the end. Hopefully you found some value in hearing more about networking. If you already are well seasoned, maybe you heard a little tidbit that you could use as well. I really do appreciate those of you in my network who have been sharing this podcast with others. I see it on Facebook all the time. I have my awesome B&I networking group who has been taking my episodes, posting them, sharing them with their network online, and that has been really helpful for the listenership as well. So thank you for that.
And a quick word from our producer.
Oh my goodness.
If you're listening, please make sure you're subscribing to the channel. We're trying to grow this, we're building our network online for branching out. So it's really important that if you like what you're hearing, click the subscribe button. Ask your friends if you like us that much and you're willing to recommend us. Ask your friends to like us and subscribe as well.
Yeah, you can on Facebook actually just invite your entire friends list to follow Branching Out with Sierra, and then once they see some of the stuff, maybe then they'd be interested too. That's the thing. So my friends are really good at sharing it, but make sure you're sharing the Branching Out pages link, so it's bringing people to the page rather than just the link sometimes too. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't care which link. They don't have to go to Facebook. As long as they're going to one of the other ones.
Yeah.
Just make sure you're subscribing to Spotify, YouTube,
Apple
Podcast. We're on iHeart. I think I got us on like 20 different platforms. I don't even remember. We're on all of the big ones. If there's one that you do listen to that we're not on, let us know because I'll get us on there quickly.
Yeah.
I was trying to find as many as I could to get us out there. So
yeah, Nope, thanks for doing that. It's hard to believe that we're coming up on a year of this thing.
Over 40 episodes now. I don't know which one this one will actually be, but it's over 40, so.
It is. Well, there are 52 weeks in a year, so we're getting there.
Every week.
One step closer. All right. You jumped in. By the way, I'm just going to throw this out there. I have been doing a really good job of practicing self-control during this episode because as I'm trying to talk, he is imitating his 5-year-old son and looking through the screen at the podcast mic, trying to distract me and make me laugh. And I have held it together, so I just wanted to share that.
There's holes.
I wanted to point it out so he knew that I knew he was doing it and it wasn't working on me. So, as he said, be sure to subscribe so you get notifications when a new podcast comes out every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time. I am always looking for more guests and more topic ideas, so feel free to submit those to info@branchingoutpodcast.com. And if you are interested in being a guest, we've had some new applications come in recently. Go to the branchingoutpodcast.com page. I didn't mean the branchingoutpodcast.com, meaning that was the website address. I meant go to the branchingout.com podcast page.
And when you sign up to be a guest, if you say a couple of nice things on that questionnaire about the producer, that may or may not help influence whether you get on.
Yeah,
here or
he
not.
makes the decisions around here, not me. So
I got one last thing.
Oh my goodness!
I got one last thing.
There's always something else.
You know I had to.
What?
How many times has Erica been on the podcast this year?
None. She technically did the launching into the new year.
That was like the New Year's Eve.
How many episodes do you think Erica has listened to this year?
Probably none.
Only her own.
Oh, that's true.
I'm just guessing.
I know that I know for a fact that she didn't watch her episode. So that's just for those of you listening, there might be a couple of Easter eggs if you watch that episode, but
or any episode, because I'm pretty sure you put some stuff from me in some of these too.
There's a few, but I think the last one that I was on, because we had some technical difficulties, that one's got a couple of Easter eggs, but the one with Erica has some as well if you're watching.
Okay. Any other interruptions before we close up?
No, but I just want Erica to know that this is my second podcast this year.
Well, she's not going to know because she's not going to listen to this.
Well, I'll make sure that this ends up a clip that she can see.
All right. Well, until next time, keep branching out.
Bye.
Just like your son.